Fitness Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen,
ABF Renegades.
welcome back to another episode of the ABF All Business Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Mendez, with my co-host,
Joe Rich.
and guys, we have a very exciting interview today. We currently have, all the way from Scotland, the current DFAC World Champion and current BMBF British Finals, Mr. David Kaye. David, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
All business fitness in the house.
All right,
Pleasure
Dave.
to be on your show, man. Pleasure.
Oh,
Thanks for
the show.
doing this. Thanks for doing this, David.
Yeah, we definitely
No
appreciate
worries,
it,
man.
especially what now here, New York time. It's 5:24 p.m. What time is it? Where you're at now?
Yeah. It's not too bad. It's only about 9:24, so
Okay, well,
yeah, it's not too late.
we have about 4 hour difference here. So
Not bedtime
Oh.
yet.
So David,
yeah.
the first question I want to ask you is, how does it feel to be called the world champion?
Say that again for me.
The current
all good.
DFAC world
yeah.
champion.
I can't wait until you can call me double world champ. That'll be great.
Oh.
For now, I think for now it's been a real pleasure, honestly, just to and a real honour, should I say, just to be able to kind of finally tick that box, and after 2 second place finishes in 2013 and 2014, just to like I say, seal the deal and get that win and get that elusive title, and bring it home to the kind of guys at home, because they were obviously kept asking, you're going to win, you can't get second again. And I was like, well, I'll do my best. But yeah, I couldn't have asked for any more, and to finally kind of nail that title down, yeah, that was a big deal. And it's been a good 6 months since then. Yeah.
Now, David, what did you think you did different from the last? Because you mentioned you said you came in second place 2 times.
Twice in a row, yeah, at the Worlds.
Wow,
Ouch.
and tell us how did that feel, especially to travel all the way from the UK, coming here and getting second.
Yeah, it was rough. The first year in 2013 was probably the hardest, because I was so close, and it was the first time I actually felt like this is going to be my time. And I'd just finished, I'd had a horrible prep, a really horrendous prep that year in 2013. I had really bad injuries. So when I finally got to the stage, I did the DFAC British Pro Grand Prix first, and I won that show. This is what I'm on a roll here. And then I got to Miami, and it was Robert Johnson that won that year. That took the title, and it was neck and I'd competed against Robert. And let me tell you, I gained a lot of respect for that man that day, I tell you, because I think I'd come in raised the hardest condition-wise I've ever been in my life. I've been as conditioned since, but I think that I really nailed it that day. And he looked fantastic to take the win. From all reports and feedbacks from the judges, it was super, super close, and there wasn't much to separate us. So to get second, like you say, to go all that way and to having that title, that was a heartbreaker, man. And I always said that second place is the worst place in the world, because it's the best loser. So only the winner's happy. And then, to answer your question, the next year in 2014, I went into that show with the goal of beating Robert, which I did. I managed to achieve that. But of course, Mr. Siobhan Cunningham had come in the mix that year. And he gave me an ass whooping. That's the only way I can describe it. And I needed that, because every time you face a defeat, it tells you something, and it gives you something to focus on. You have to look at how did I get beat, or where was the other guy better? And in this instance, whatever it took for me to beat Robert, I'd achieved. And then Siobhan came in, my ass, and I had to look at, what do I need to do to beat Siobhan? And he's currently, at the time, he was an overall WMBF world champ, so I knew his caliber coming in. And then, don't get me wrong, I thought I could take him. I'll be honest with you, I thought I had a shot, but he was a better man that day, and he took it home, and that really set the fire under my belly to get better for 2:15, which I did. So thanks for that, guys. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Siobhan. You made me the man I am today. So yeah, it was tough. 2:13 was hard. 2:14, I didn't mind. I didn't mind so much. I think it's because, you know, I'd been second once and then second again. I was like, okay, I just need to keep working harder. So that's pretty much how I yeah.
David, I've often said that failure is some of the best things that one can go through, and obviously it happened to you, and we don't want to fail, yeah. but it turned out that you obviously succeeded. But now that you succeeded, do you think that maybe that fire is not as lit, or are you still hungry as ever?
That is a good question, Joe. And the bottom line is, I don't know yet. It's a different feeling when you finish a show and you come second versus you finish a show and you're the winner. And I always say bodybuilding's that type of sport where it's kind of like the winner takes everything. They take all the glory. And to answer your question straight off, am I as motivated as I was in 2:14? Yes, I am. Did I go into the off-season slightly differently? Perhaps. Yeah, I think so. I think, like I say, whenever you lose, I mean, we'll call it a failure if you want, Joe. But I mean, ultimately, defeat sometimes. If you're the best you can be, you've not failed. You've just been beaten by a better guy, and that certainly tells you what you need to do to improve your physique. When you win, you've got nothing to compare it to because no one beat you on the day. So you kind of think, well, perhaps I was a finished article, but you're never the finished article. And in this instance, I know where I need to make improvements in my physique to stay on top, and that's currently what I'm doing at the moment. So no, I don't think motivation's died at all, to be honest. I still love the sport, and hopefully it loves me.
Oh, it does.
So you mentioned, just to jump in there real quick, you mentioned that you recognize what you had to fix in your physique back in 2013 and then 2014. Yeah. So going back to that mindset, you know, so what do you think you have to fix?
As in now, as in 2016?
Yes. So compare the David Kaye of 2015 at the DFAC Worlds. What improvements do you have to make?
Okay, for me personally, you know, to answer that question, I'll take you back to 2013 because that'll kind of explain my mindset and how I've gone into it very, very quickly. In 2013, it was very, very close with myself and Robert Johnson, and the feedback from the judges was that just standing still, it almost went all the way back. Standing still in the front of the lats, Robert was just a little bit more mature, a little bit fuller, particularly in the shoulders and the delts. So, of course, I get told I go away for the year and hit my delts twice a week, hammer them, come back the next year. Oh, hey, look, Dave Kaye's got bigger delts, he's better. And I managed to beat Robert. Here, Siobhan came in, he was just, I mean, I know people have described Siobhan's physique as kind of like not just three-dimensional, but four-dimensional. He's so full. And I remember pumping up beside Siobhan backstage that year because I had never seen him before. And before I went in, I've maybe got a chance because I know my strengths. And I thought I've maybe got a chance against this guy. When I stood next to him pumping up, I was like, wow, there is a reason why this guy is world champ. And it really brought it home to me that I just needed to be thicker all over. I just needed more food. So from 2014 to 2015, it was just get stronger, eat food, consistent, stay injury-free, and come back bigger and fuller. And the general feedback was that last year I was just far more mature, far bigger, far fuller, and a lot more balanced. So going into 2016, guys, I'm just aiming to capitalise on that. I'm aiming for chest, a bit more fullness in the chest, upper chest. I'll always keep my shoulders. I'll always hit my shoulders twice a week, and back thickness. I think you can never have too much back thickness. So fortunately, I'm a fan of heavy deadlifts and heavy back training in general. So that's no problem for me to get in the gym and thicken up that back. And just come back bigger, fuller, in the same condition, and let the chips fall where they may. So that's my plan.
It sounds like a good plan, David. So let's just say you compete this year, and Siobhan competes this year. What do you want? What message do you want to give Siobhan if he's coming for you?
If he's coming for my title, he's going to have to wait. You know?
First of all, David, Siobhan said that he doesn't know if he's competing this year. So if you wanted to get Siobhan going, and you wanted to send him, just like Joe says, send him a message to compete, what would you, as a current world champion?
Yeah, personally, I think Siobhan's full of shit. I think he's competing this year.
You know what? I do as well. You know what? It's I wouldn't like to say too much because it's tough out there and you can end up looking pretty foolish. But I would say that I think if I come back with the expected improvements I would make, I think I'll be hard to beat. I'm not saying I'll be unbeatable, but I think I'll be even harder to beat. So that's not to say someone like Siobhan, I mean, what an athlete he is, absolutely incredible. That's not to say he can't turn up or anyone else can't turn up and kick my ass. So I honestly, I don't like to say too much, but I'm confident, quietly confident. I know what I'm capable of, I think. So, yeah, and I know what's to come. So we'll leave it. I think we can leave it there. He's a great guy though, Siobhan. I know we have a bit of banter. We tease each other and stuff, but he knows I've got so much respect for him. And if it wasn't for the fact that he'd come on that stage that year in 2014, I don't think I would be the bodybuilder I am today. So I owe a lot to someone like him. Top champ.
Wow, that's awesome. David, you beat him this year. What do you think set you apart this year? What gave you that title this year that maybe Siobhan was lacking, or what made you come out on top? Was it your ass? Because I'll tell you one thing. 6 months later, I sure as shit they're still talking about your glutes, your ass in the gyms around here.
Now, how does that feel, David?
Again, Robert, I don't want to say too much, but no, it's well, that's nice to hear that I made an impression on the guys. But in terms of me versus Siobhan last year, I think a lot of it came down to me improving my physique to the point where my weaknesses were no longer weak against his, because we're two very different physiques. And I think that I have my strengths and he has his strengths, and his strengths are my weaknesses, so to speak, if you can call it weaknesses, and I would say vice versa. I'd say some of my strengths are his weaknesses. So I was very much aware going into that show that if I came in 100% conditioned, I came in big and I came in full and I came in dry and just on the money, perhaps I had enough balance overall to win the show. And it's funny that I listened to Siobhan's interview, which was a great interview he did with you guys, and he commented on the first show he did, and I think he won Best Arms. And funnily enough, I remember listening to that and thinking, the first show I ever did, I won the Best Legs Award. And I would say that X amount of years on, standing on stage together, his strength over me was his arms, and my strength over him were my legs. And I don't know whether that made any difference to the judging overall. It might have done, it might not. I know we look at bodybuilding as, there's 7 or 8 different poses, but certainly my strengths continue to be my strengths, and his are his. And Siobhan's chest, arms, shoulders, possibly, not possibly, definitely up there with the greatest of all time, in natural bodybuilding. That's his, and I don't think many people would dispute that. But saying that, you judge the physique as a whole, and I think just with my shape, I open up, I pop when I pose. I've been told that my physique comes alive when I pose, and I think particularly from the back, that might have been the where I had the edge. I think I'm very balanced head to toe, and I know things like was dialed in. They're very well up to my back's very detailed, and everything's in balance. So well developed. And with that respect, I think my physique ticked a lot of boxes. So maybe it ticked 1 or 2 more boxes than his that day. I don't know. You'd have to ask the judges again.
Okay.
But I bet it was close. I bet it was close. That's all I can say. Yeah.
So, David, one question I know we asked Siobhan,
Sure.
and I do want to ask you as well. I know we have this problem, especially here in the U.S., with the cereal box pro cards. But walk us back. What was the process that you had to go through? What was your journey to get your pro card in the BNBF?
Okay, right. I would say that winning a pro card out of Great Britain is possibly the toughest avenue that someone can take. And the reason being that I won't, for those of you that listen to what Siobhan had to say, this is perhaps going over ground that we've already covered. But basically, BNBF operates in a qualifier to final system. So we've got about 8 different qualifiers throughout the year, all over Britain. And guys place, if you place top 2, you get invited to the BNBF British Finals. So it's qualification to the BNBF British Finals. You obviously are in your respective class, and each class winner then goes on to the overall showdown in that show. So by the time you get to the overall at the BNBF British Championships, the best guy in the entire country is on stage in his weight class against the next best guy in the entire country. So this quality is absolutely phenomenal. And only 1 pro card gets handed out. So it's only the top dog, the best in show, gets that pro card. So it's very, very prestigious, and it's an honour. And I was aware of this growing up, and I used to look at the professionals coming out of the UK with awe, to be quite honest with you. And if you look back at the heritage of natural bodybuilding in Britain, it really is quite spectacular. You've got, past champions, guys like Rob Hope, Nigel Davis. These are names that get thrown around as being some of, if not the greatest naturals of all time. And achieving pro status in Britain is a very, very big deal. It really is. And that's why, if you're a pro coming out of the UK, you're good. You will not be a weak pro, because the system does not allow it. My route to pro status was actually slightly different, funnily enough. My deal was that I'd done a show, the BNBF Scottish Championships, in 2010, and I won the overall there. And there was a trip that BNBF were going to take the overall winner of the Scottish out to the Cayman Islands to compete in the universe, the pro and amateur universe. It was actually with the IFBA, I think, that ran the pro universe, and it was the NANBF, I believe, ran the amateur affiliate. So taken out there 5 weeks after the Scottish show. I competed alongside Vicky McCann and Ben Tennyson. Ben's a great friend of ours, and I won the overall there, and that was my route to pro status. And then after I won my pro card there, I competed as a pro to win my first pro show, which was, quite a good start. So winning my completely different, and a lot of my friends who have won the overall at the BNBF British Championships all get a sword. That's the prize for winning the overall at the BNBF Britain, and I don't have a sword, and they remind me of this all the time. But they don't have 3 British Pro Grand Prix titles or a world title, so I remind them of that. But it's a joke. It's a joke that goes on between us all. But my route to pro status was similar but slightly different. Ultimately, most guys have to go through the BNBF British Finals, and they have to win that coveted sword, and that's them as pro. So that was a long-winded way of telling you how I got there.
So just to rewind a little bit there. So if you want to become a pro in the BNBF, you first have to compete in a qualifier.
Yep.
Now, they have about, you said 8 or 9 qualifiers or so? So
that's right, yeah.
You have to first compete in a qualifier. You have to win top 2 in your class. Then you have to compete at the British Finals. Then you have to win the overall to get a pro card.
That is correct.
So
Romer.
Only 1 pro card a year?
They now offer a Masters Pro card, because we have a Masters Pros at the World Championships. There is a Masters to be had, but that's obviously separate.
Wow.
For all the other guys, for all the teens, juniors, novice, all the weight classes, lightweights, middleweights, heavyweights, all these guys have to battle it out for that pro card. And one, just think about it, one and crossed the entire country for a whole year. That's how special it is. And that's why the ABF has such a strong amateur foundation, because all these guys, I mean, are jostling for position and trying to win that title. And every year there's a handful of guys who win that pro card, but only one guy can take it. There's no soft cards given out here. And if that one guy takes it, there's maybe 3 or 4 other guys that just have to another year, you know? And that's sport, and that's competitive sport, and that's what we want.
So David, and I do agree. I mean, especially after this year at Worlds, the British amateur team, I mean, you guys looked absolutely phenomenal. I mean, everyone out there looked great. But
yep.
Why do you think the U.S. still kept the World Cup?
In terms of retaining that World Cup, you mean?
because I was actually calculating the scores, and the U.S. won it again.
They did indeed. You don't have to remind me of that. They, you know, I wasn't aware of the scoring as the competition progressed in Miami, but I've been told that the USA picked up quite a lot of their points in the classes such as men's physique, bikini, and probably figure. Well, a lot of the women, the US are particularly good in figure and things like that, and the UK's got a little bit of catching up to do. But in terms of just bodybuilding, in terms of men's bodybuilding, that is where the UK were strong, and I think they remained pretty strong, you know, against the US.
Well, I'll tell you this. Again, I was the one calculating
Worlds.
scores. And
okay.
I can tell you that right up to the final 2 classes, the UK was actually beating the US. And the last 2 classes that were up were bikini and men's athletic, men's physique. And that's how the US got on top.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was that close.
Oh, well, there you go. We don't have, in the BNBF, we don't actually have men's athletic or bikini. So we didn't have any participation from the UK, so, you know, I guess we just have to give that one up at the final hurdle. But, you know, I think our team did okay, and one day we'll get that cup one day.
You will, David. Now, David, let me touch on something. I saw a lot of UK people eating carbs like candy. I mean, I must have saw sweet potato after sweet potato after sweet potato. I mean, what did your? I mean, and then the people in the U.S., the competitors in the U.S., we're all carb sensitive. I mean, there's such different approaches that you guys have to us. I mean, now this was rumor. I heard that one of your days you were at like 800 carbs. Is that true?
800. I was actually on a lot more than that, Joe, to be honest. I think on day one, I mean, 800 is an easy day. Day one, I was probably on about 1,500 grams of carbs on a carb up, and then it reduced from there on in. But no, I mean, to answer your question, I guess guys in the UK, I mean, not everyone in the UK diets the way I do, and I'm quite renowned for my diet being super high carbohydrate, kind of moderate protein and low fat. And that's not actually anything new, because I know a lot of my fellow pros diet in the same way. Okay, our total numbers might be slightly different, but the breakdown's very, very similar. And a lot of British pros do that. And I think, you know, there's probably quite a few American pros do that as well, but it's perhaps not as widespread. But certainly back in Britain, we've kind of found what works, or I've certainly found what works for me. And that's something that was installed in me right from the start. I mean, I came from an athletic background, so we just ate for performance. So I ate high carbohydrate, moderate protein, low fat. I was an athlete, I was a sprinter, and that's what fueled performance. So when I got into bodybuilding, I didn't see the reason to change my diet at all. Bodybuilding, okay, when you're competing on stage, you're posing, but ultimately every single part of your bodybuilding prep, from the training wise to your like kind of nutrition and your human physiology, it works the same. It's an explosive based sport. You're training, you're weight training, you're training with heavy weights, you shouldn't be doing tons of cardio, and that is your primary source for that carbohydrates. So I'm like, that's what I'm going to eat most of, and that to me makes sense. And I think when more people get that that idea, kind of get around that, they'll probably notice it. They'll feel better, they'll look better, and they'll perform better. And that's something that was installed for me from the start. And what was really nice was before my first show, a gentleman who you will know well by the name of Guy Addison, he took me under his wing with regards to diet. And I didn't know at the time, but Guy doesn't really shout this from the rooftops, but Guy is a bit of a guru in terms of diet. And he did diets for Nigel Davis, Rob Hope, a lot of the greats. This guy's, been there doing diets for the top pros for decades, and the diet he kind of gave me was very, very similar to the one that I was already on. So we just worked together and tweaked a few things and just found out what my body likes, and turns out my body likes carbohydrates, and if you give it any more, it says thank you very much, I'll take that. I don't need as much protein, I don't need as much fat, and I just get better and better. And Guy and I have worked together since my very, very first show, and I owe him a lot with regards to keeping me on track. And okay, now I have a lot more experience, I can probably diet myself, but what I do need Guy for is to be there as a fresh pair of eyes and to look at me and look at my physique as I go throughout my prep, to see the changes, to see if I'm a little bit flat or you've got plenty of fullness. Do I need to nip it down? Do I need to speed up fat loss? I need to slow it down. Guy's invaluable in that respect, and he kind of looks after me, because when I diet, my head's gone. I get to a certain stage, but usually about you see yourself every day, so you need a fresh pair of eyes to look at. And Guy keeps me anything. He keeps me real there. I mean, I don't know whether you want to talk about this, but certainly the difference in my physique from 214 to 215 and largely fullness.
I was just going to say that, fullness.
It's no coincidence, Joe, that my carbohydrate intake throughout my entire year contest was much higher carbohydrate than it was the year before. And that was from an already much high carb diet. So it just goes to show. And I stick by that, and I really do think that that's the way forward for natural athletes. I really do. Yeah.
I agree.
So I got a question for you here. A little bird messaged me and wanted to know, where do you get the nickname Diva Dave?
Diva Dave.
Diva Dave. How did that come
out? This is an inherited nickname. I put out a full disclaimer here, folks. This is not my official nickname. I have another two, but I'm not allowed to say what they are. I can pretty much guarantee, or I can guess with 100% certainty who that little birdie would have been. And the term Diva Dave. Okay, this comes from a story back in 2011. I was doing a guest spot at some BNBF shows, and it was at the BNBF Scottish, and backstage I was pretty nervous. It was my first guest spot. I didn't really know what to expect, and I was panicking a little bit. And backstage, apparently I was a little bit demanding of some of the backstage staff. I don't think I was, but that's, people like to take a rumour and run with it. So one of the backstage staff, by the name of Gordon Lyon, who's a very familiar backstage man for the BNBF and DFAC, Big Gordo, you'll know him. He decided that I should be called Diva Dave, and there was a grand piano and such backstage in the pump-up area, and he proclaimed that he made me play. I made him play the piano, and he had to feed me grapes and whatnot as I was pumping up. But of course, we know that's probably slightly inflated from the truth. But nonetheless, thereafter, I had inherited the Dave, and I somehow managed to hold on to it. But I actually think, guys, I'm pretty low maintenance kind of guy these days.
So there you go, guys. Everyone in the UK.
I see a lot of guys backstage who there's a lot of guys backstage that are far more deserving of that nickname than I am. But
so there you go, guys. Whenever you guys see David Kaye, do not call him Diva Dave. Don't do it. Don't call him Diva Dave. He doesn't like it.
Hey, Dave.
Thanks, Robert. Everyone's going to call me Diva. I'm cool. It's funny.
Hey, Dave, I see that. Is that a cooler in the back there? What is CNP? What does that stand for?
Oh, the cool bag. Oh, did I get that in shot? That is CNP. That is CNP Professional. They sponsors back here in the UK. They're a supplement company, a massive supplement company back in the UK, and they do a lot of work for natural bodybuilding. They sponsor a lot of BMBF shows, and they take on a large part of the drug testing costs and stuff. And I gained sponsorship from CNP last year for the British Pro Grand Prix, so about last September, and they look after me. So yeah, big shout out to CNP Professional, guys. Check them out. They're on Facebook. Yeah, really company in supporting natural bodybuilding for a long, long time. They really were instrumental, really good company to getting the BMBF up and running. So big shout out to CNP.
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link their websites under the subscription.
So David, for all the girls out there that follow you, are you more of a? Would you say you're more of a butt, breast, or leg guy?
Oh.
Oh. Yeah. Am I talking chicken here or what? You know, I like what I like, and I think, you know, if you're going to put me on the spot, you know, I like them all, but women should squat. I think that'll be my statement for the day.
Oh, okay.
A woman who squats, that's a good thing.
Okay.
Now we had another fan question. DFAC Probe, Brian Spaduti from Buffalo wanted to know some details. He wanted to know, especially regarding peak week. I remember we had a conversation in Miami, and you were mentioning how do you manipulate your potassium and sodium levels during peak week.
Yeah. I don't do a lot, to be honest. I'm not really a believer in doing anything wacky or anything extreme. If I going into peak week, I am not the type of person who holds water. You know, when I diet down, I don't really get days where I see holding more water than others, and my body seems to naturally just keep flushing things out very, very effectively. And I take on board a lot of water throughout my diet as well. I take on board quite a bit of sodium just through salting foods, just naturally. When I diet, I don't eliminate any of those things, and neither do I kind of potassium at all. The only thing I will do is going into the final week is that I will maybe on the day, maybe the day or day before, I might just nip the sodium slightly, and that I'm not doing anything stupid like eating anything really sodium dense food, because by that stage I kind of feel that, you know, if I'm full by one day out, or I'm not at least full, and the water and the carbs are not in the right place, then a last ditch effort for me is probably not going to, you know, it's not going to take me in the right direction. So I do very little manipulation, and I tend to just, you know, naturally allow my body to deal with water and things, and not really put under any shock. So that may not be what people want to hear, and people maybe want to hear something, you know, radical that I do, or something that, you know,
the secret
will make everyone dry as a bone and shredded. But there isn't one, you know, guys. And honestly, the secret is that if you don't look shredded, if your glutes are not completely through, like bone dry at 2 weeks out, you're not going to look like that on the day of the show. You just can't do it. And for a natural physique as well, you can't do any last minute crash dieting, because all that happens is you'll just go flat, you'll go stringy, you'll lose all sort of fullness. And what is the point? I've always said condition is nothing without fullness. If you have big round full muscles that pop and striate when they pose, then you can be as hard as nails. But if you're flat and, you know, if you've not got any fullness, then it's not going to look impressive. So yeah, you need to be ready early, and the only way to do that is through hard work. So that's the take-home message there. Sorry,
David. Brian Whitaker beat Siobhan. Okay,
yep.
You beat Siobhan. Do you think on your best day,
yep,
if you were to go toe-to-toe with Brian Whitaker, do you think you can beat him?
you're not the first person to ask me that. In matter of fact, I think everyone in the natural bodybuilding community probably wanted to know. And the reality is, no one's going to know until we stand on stage together. If you're asking personal opinion, then, you know, yes, I do think I could beat Brian, simply for the fact that Brian's strengths are my strengths, but I'm a much bigger, heavier physique. That's not to say that will transpire if we stood together, but I think for someone like Siobhan and Brian, they're chalk and cheese. They're very different, so the judges will go one way or the other. Whereas myself and Brian have actually shared a lot of similarities, and I just feel that with the exercise I have and, you know, balance and thickness, I think I would be a handful for Brian. But, you know, like I say, this is all, it's just speculative. You'd have no idea. Brian and I would have to stand on stage together, and I know I speak to Brian a little bit, and I have total respect for the guy, and he comes in crazy condition, and Brian's toppled many physiques that are in heavier weight classes. So yeah, I would never be arrogant enough to say, yeah, no problem, I'd smash him outright. No one can say that, but I would be confident in what my physique. I know the type of physique I've got and what I bring to the table. So hey ho,
nice.
We'll see.
Yeah, and Brian Whitaker is a class act.
Yes.
He is indeed.
Yeah, I met Brian a few times at WMBF, 2010, 11 or so, when he came in second a few times. And I mean, really nice guy. I remember one year, actually, there was he was up on stage, I believe it was with Martin Daniels, and his wife was sitting right next to me, and there was this guy next to us who was kind of heckling and saying some rude things. And he said something to her, and then I had to kind of like defend her a little bit there, so.
Don't be a heckler.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I wouldn't. You know, Brian. I don't know Brian all that well. Like I say, I have spoke to him obviously a few times through kind of social media and whatnot. And I got total respect for the guy, and what he achieved last year was really quite spectacular. So, you know, I've said congratulations to Brian on a few occasions, and if he ever catches a chance to watch this, I'll say it again. Well done, Brian, on a great season, and hopefully we will stand on stage together one day, my man, and the questions can be put to rest.
There you go.
No, that actually leads me to my next question, which actually comes in from DFAC promoter of the Minnesota Mayhem, our buddy Leave Anderson. Leave wants to know, if you had to call out, I wouldn't say call out, maybe invite one other natural bodybuilder to compete in the DFAC Worlds, maybe someone you haven't competed with out here, who would that be?
Just one.
You can name a few. You can invite a few. We will say call out, but we don't want to be too confrontational.
I mean, I can. No. I mean, no, it's not the type of conversation we're having. I would say there's one guy on the scene at the moment who I think I would like to compete against, and that's Rico. Philip Ricardo Jr. I've spoke to Rico a lot over the years, and as a matter of fact, the first pro show I did back in 2011 at the Orton Cup, Rico was actually one of the judges. I remember he very kindly came up to me after the show and said, you know, this new guy on the scene, and I was like, yeah, I'm just turned pro, and he's like, you know, big respect, man. You've got a bright British guy, future in the sport, and I remember that. It was a I, of course, knew who he was. And over the years, you know, Rico's always congratulated me on my placings and how I did. And certainly when I won the world title, he was kind of like, there it is, you know, it's been coming, and I told you, and, you know, massive respect. So Philip's certainly one guy that I'd love to share the stage with. I think we similar strengths in our physiques, and I think that we would be quite well matched. So it'd be a good one for the fans to see that go down, I think. And if I can give you one more name, and this will not happen because he tells me he is retired, but Big Ben Tennyson, the Bull.
The Bull.
I would love if Ben came back on stage and competed for one more time. You know, I think it's a long shot, but you know, growing up, Ben was one of those guys I looked up to as just an enormous physique, absolutely incredible. If you see Ben in his prime up close, it's just ridiculous. The amount of muscle that hangs off his frame, slabs of muscle. It's really is mind-boggling. I've never in my life seen a natural physique as thick is Ben Tennyson. And Ben's a good friend of mine now. And I always kind of take digs at him and try and get him to compete. And he says, no, he's done. But that would really kind of seal the deal for me if Ben came back and competed, because I could say I competed against Ben the Bull Tennyson. And that would be good for me.
Hopefully we can get Philip and Ben on here, and maybe they can answer your questions for you.
Yeah, that'd be. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I was just going to say, if you got Ben and Philip on, I think I know what Ben will say. I don't know what Philip might say. But Ben, I think, he's hung up the trunks for good. Unfortunately.
Well, we're gonna find out.
We'll get him on.
Yeah, we'll get him on. As I watch and I study you guys, I saw one of your clips on your Instagram. I think you did 495 deadlift for like 15 or 20 times, Dave.
Yeah.
Pound for pound, would you say you're one of the strongest natural pros out there?
I mean, it depends what lift we're talking. If it's a deadlift, I would say pound for pound. Yes, I probably am, and particularly with regards to reps. On a squat and a deadlift, I can rep like a demon. I seem to be able to pull quite close to my maximum for a lot of reps. And I trained with Vicky McCann for years. She was she is really the only training partner I've ever had. It was a real training partner, and we would kind of be joined at the hip for years. And Vicky she's the same. She can rep, all day. And I wonder if that's that type of training we did together, and it's just paid off. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I'm very strong on the deadlift, which probably explains the hamstrings and the glutes, Joe. And I can squat. I can squat big, and I can squat big for reps. Bench press, it's a bit of a joke around the gym because I've got an atrocious bench press, but it doesn't matter because I've got a world title, so it doesn't matter what you lift.
In your face.
So I would say, yeah, I would be quite happy to kind of take on challenges from anyone on a deadlift. But if I had to rep, double body weight for as many reps as you could, or something like that. A challenge that I kind of like thrive on, and that's what I'm really good at. I think 495, or the equivalent in kilos, I think it's about 225. It's 14 or 15 is probably the most I've done, but I'll surpass that this year, I think, when I'm ready to do that. Now I'm trying to think something else. The worst challenge I ever did was one that was issued by Tim Martin, another great natural over in the States, and he'd issued a challenge to deadlift 405 for 10 minutes non-stop, as many reps as possible, and it had to be dead stop reps. You couldn't touch and go. You had to stop, reset, and pull. And at the time, that was just over double my body weight, and I think I got one rep less than him. I think we got about 58 reps in the 10 minutes. But that was one of the hardest challenges I've ever done. That was horrible. But builds muscle.
Oh. Now, Dave, you mentioned your bench press wasn't one of your strongest points. Now, again, I got a message from a little bird that wants to know, why did it take you 6 years for you to nail 3 plates on the bench?
Well, it's funny. I actually benched over 3 plates when I was a kid, when I was younger. And then between probably about 2009, I sustained a pretty nasty elbow injury, and I just think over time I had the fear somewhere deep down. I didn't ever quite commit to the big bench. But those things, everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses, and a bench press is not one of my strengths. But if I may, I know for a fact that my bench press is better than the legend Rob Holt's, and I didn't see anyone complaining about Rob on stage, so it obviously goes to show you big bench press means nothing in the world of bodybuilding.
Now, David, so you mentioned that you had your injuries. So if you can maybe tell us, how did you train around those injuries? What did you do? Did you still go all out? Did you take a step back? Like, what is your approach to training with injuries?
Right. It very much depends on the injury, but between virtually every single prep I've ever done, I've had to face some sort of injury. And 2013 was the worst. I'd injured my back very, very badly. I couldn't squat, I couldn't deadlift. I'd actually inflamed my lower back so badly that it desensitized nerves into my left leg. So my left leg basically was like running at about 20% power. So I couldn't do anything. It was absolutely atrocious. And I don't rest when I've got an injury. And that it may be stupid. It may just be the sort of kind of guy I am. But I tend to find ways of training around injuries. I used to train through them, but you very quickly realise that something will break first, and it won't be the iron, it'll be you. So I just find ways of training around injuries and do everything I can to get the best session out of my body without aggravating that injury any further. And just hopefully, as the weeks go on, it kind of heals itself. But yeah, my advice to anyone would be, if they're training kind of through injuries, is that stay positive and don't give up. The injury will improve, but if you sack the prep, or if you stop training, or if you just let it go, you can't get that back, because when the injury's healed, you're out. You're still out. You know what I mean? You've come off your diet and so on. So I always say one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is stay on a diet and stay in the gym when I've suffered a bad injury, because it knocks you back and it knocks your confidence and makes you kind of pretty deflated, to be honest. But you know, bodybuilding's about heart and staying in the game. So that's just what I try to do year after year. That's it.
We also had another question from another bird.
A lot of birds.
There are a lot of birds
a lot of
sending
birds
in questions.
around.
Now, this person, I'm not going to mention his name, but he wants to know, David, what is up with all your selfies this year? And he wants to know, how long do you think you're going to hold his world title? I'm not going to say his name, but you can probably guess who it is.
Right.
Siobhan.
I think I know. Yeah. I know who that is. All I'll say is, if anyone wants to know the real deal, look on Siobhan's Instagram and look on mine, and I want you to count up who's got the most selfies.
Oh.
But that's Siobhan to a T, and I love the guy to bits for that. And we always have a joke, and I think Siobhan and I come from the same sort of belief about bodybuilding and the sport and the way it's going, and we are not really big into the way the fitness industry has become, with like the thousands, the like 10 selfies every day, taking pictures in the gym, training. I'm kind of like, well, where do these people find time to take all these photos and take these videos when they're training? I'm too busy just training. And Siobhan's the same. So we joke, if any of us puts up a selfie, we get hammered for it for about a week from each other. But so that's kind of where that comes from. With regards to his second question, how long am I going to hold on to the title? As long as I want it.
Oh.
As long as I want it.
Man, shots fired. Shots fired.
I was just about to say, obviously that's delivered with the utmost respect to everyone else.
Yeah.
Very classy.
If there's anything you wanna say to your fans out there, David, what would it be, or some of the people that are just coming up in the ranks, like I don't know, there's that Damon how do you pronounce his name? Damon Harrier. He's a young one, but he's
oh yeah.
He's ridiculous. But I mean, for the people that look up to you, what do you want to tell everybody?
With regards to just general advice as to kind of where to go. I would say patience. Patience is the first thing, and it does not happen overnight. And the sport will kick you in the face, and it'll kick you when you're down, and it'll do that quite a few times before you actually eventually reach your goal. And some people will stick with it, and some people will fall by the wayside. But if you truly kind of love the sport and you're in it for the right reasons, you'll stay in it and you'll get there. And bodybuilding, is not a glamorous sport in the truest sense. Okay, when you're on stage and you're tanned up and you're like shredded to the bone and you've got a big smile on your face, hey, that looks good. Everyone's like, yeah, I want to be like that guy. I can do that. I want to be like him. That doesn't look that hard. Well, let me tell you something. That is just, That's a snapshot of what the sport really is. And the sport is about having a big heart. It's about having patience. It's about working hard. It's about, fighting through injuries and, staying to the diet. And ultimately, it's consistency. And consistency is a word I'll always use, because that's the only thing that I can attribute to my success. I've been consistent with everything I've done, whether that be hard work, diet, anything. It's consistency. And if you're consistent with what you're doing, you'll make the improvements, and you'll get to where you need to go. And everyone's got different goals, and good luck in achieving them. That's what I say.
I just want to say, David, Romer and myself, we look up to guys like you, and when people mention your name, I just want to let you know that I think of a class act. I think you're a real humble dude. You got your head on straight, and I just think you're an overall class act.
No, absolutely. I think I know a lot of our guys here from Team Buffalo. They competed at the DFAC World. For them, I mean, some of them said the best part of the whole trip was hanging out with you at the DFAC World's after party, and how you took time to answer their questions. You were hanging out with them. And again, you won the world title, and you're just there just like a normal guy, hanging out with everyone.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's actually, I feel very humbled for you to say that about me, and that is, that's kind of how I want to be known, and that's the type of guy I am. And when I hang up my trunks, whenever that'll be, I kind of hope that that's how I'll be remembered. And obviously I want to be remembered as a guy who was good at bodybuilding, but I always say that placings, people forget placings, and people forget who beat who, but people never forget experiences, and they never forget the type of person you are. And I always think that's what stays with people. And I've done a lot in the sport with regards to giving back. I feel that I do a lot with regards to helping out running BMBF shows, the DFAC shows. I do a lot of judging. I host shows. I offer BMBF clubs that I know you guys are starting to do, and I offer my advice all free of charge. And why wouldn't I? Do you know what I mean? It's a sport I love to do, and people have helped me out free of charge in the past. So I always say that whatever I give to someone else, I will have received, from someone before me. So, there's too many big egos in the sport, and not enough substance. So I would kind of say to everyone else that, hey, stop taking yourself so seriously. You're not that big a deal, and can't we all just help each other out? We're one big family, really.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh. Now, Dave, maybe some pretty basic question that we didn't cover. First, how old are you? And second, what's your competition weight, and what's your off-season weight?
Yeah. Okay. So I am 33 years old now, or 33 years young. I compete, I don't get too caught up in exact weights. I competed, I think, at about 190 at the DFAC Worlds, 190 pounds. And my off-season weight will be about, I think, 205 to 207 was probably the heaviest I got last off-season. So you're looking at about 15 pounds probably, which may not seem like a lot, but it takes me a long time, and it takes me a lot of eating, and it takes me a lot of heavy lifting to get those 15 pounds on, because it's 15 pounds of quality weight. And that does go back to something that Siobhan had actually mentioned in his interview, that, off season's not an excuse just to go and stuff your face with crap. It's a chance to put on quality muscle. And when you diet down, you better be sure that it's there, and it's not under a mountain of fat. So this year, obviously, the aim with every off-season is a little bit heavier, compete a little bit heavier in the same condition. And that's just a cycle, and I'll just do that every time I compete. That's my aim.
That's awesome. David, where can people, if you want to be reached, where can people reach you? Do you have you said you're on Instagram? What's your Instagram name?
Yeah. My Instagram is DavidK_DFAC Pro. And you can me on Facebook. I've obviously got my own Facebook page, just David K. But I've also got David K Pro Natural Bodybuilder on Facebook. So check that out. And that's something that I'm going to be updating more kind of as the season moves on. So that's where you can get me. And hopefully, well, not hopefully, I will be updating that slightly but not too many selfies.
And guys, remember, if you message David, do not call him Diva Dave.
Diva Dave.
He doesn't like that. Don't call him Diva Dave.
Well, not if you expect a message back. No.
Well, there you go, guys. Again, David, thank you very much. Thank you. Really appreciate it. This has been a really good episode here.
Yeah, Dave.
Like I said, you're an absolute class act. And now, should we expect to see you in Miami?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. Let me postpone that. It's been an absolute pleasure, as you know. Full respect for you guys and what you're doing for the sport. I would say they will be 100% certain. I will be in Miami, and I will leave it there.
There you go, guys. You can bet your ass David Kaye will be there showing his ass.
There you go, guys. Thank you very much. Another episode of the ABF All Business Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Romer Mendez, with my co-host, Joe Rich. Guys, make sure to like our videos, subscribe to our channel. We're also on iTunes, so if you want to download the MP3, you can find us on iTunes. If you have an Android phone, you can go to Podomatic. Again, we'll link everything in the description box. We'll link all of David's information if you want to reach out to him and not call him Diva Dave.
No,
Don't
Diva
do that.
Dave.
He doesn't like that. Again, subscribe, guys. And David, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Okay, guys, have a good one.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Cheers. See you later. Thanks.
Peace.